Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Sid Part 2, and I've got quite a big stack today, so I'm going to get into it here in just 1 second. Once I adjust the damn camera. Life is so hard. There we go. Let's try that. Alright. Anyway, sorry. Man, everything's just turning against me right now. Alright, microphone, you stay there. Camera, you stay right where you are. I don't care if I have extra headspace. Sorry for the low quality. I got a late start on stuff today. Had kind of a busy afternoon. People were visiting, so I didn't get to comic reviews until, let's see, I'm starting this video at 5 o'clock, so I don't know when this is going up. But I wanted to make sure you got your comic reviews today, and I've got quite a stack to get through. So let's go ahead and get started right away with Doctor Who, 10th Doctor, second year, number 7? Yes, number 7. So this issue, I wasn't really digging all the caveman stuff. It was kind of, hitting some notes with me, but not others. I might have to go back and reread this story arc, because it seems like it was kind of all over the place, but maybe that's just because it was so closely connected to what's been going on lately. Anyway, there are things I liked about it, though. Just seeing the Doctor and Captain Jack hang out again is awesome. I so miss Captain Jack, and I was so disappointed that he never showed up for any of Matt Smith's stuff. I'm not really going to talk about all the villain stuff in here. It's not anything that we've not seen before. The basics of it was, the Doctor and all these other people, including, tribes of Neanderthals, were stuck in some kind of battle arena. And having their memories taken away, so they didn't know what was going on. And the Doctor was able to reason his way out of it, and they were all able to get out. But, interestingly, though, the battle arena was they'd all been shrunken down and put inside just a little, dome thingy. And that was kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't really care for the villain, though. But what I did really like about it is they're kind of in this basement area in Manhattan underneath the Rockefeller building. And that's when they all escape, and we got kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy group over here. And then the Doctor and Jack have a really fun conversation. I'll just read back and forth. I reckon we're somewhere deep beneath the Rockefeller Center. This must be a sub-basement of the Ebonite rooms undiscovered by UNIT. Might make a perfect base for a top-secret Earth defense organization, don't you think, Jack? Not before a program of pest control, and they kill off one of the villains or whatever. And so the Doctor just leaves Jack and these other people that he'd been adventuring with to restart Torchwood. I really like that. That's fun, and maybe we'll get more Torchwood in this book, which, it's not a good series overall. It's got a lot of problems, and essentially being Grey's Anatomy, but sci-fi at times. But there's some great stuff in Torchwood. When it was great, it was great. And so it'd be fun to see Torchwood come back, written by people who have some passion for it and really, really care about Jack and want to do interesting stuff with him. Like I said, the story itself, though, I don't have a ton to say about. I kind of just like things about it. I like things in it, but I didn't really care for it. I didn't care one way or another for it. It's got some stuff I like in it. There was nothing that I hated or nothing that I found myself dragging my way through. The Gabby's friend, not girlfriend, don't want to make it sound like she's gay or whatever. Gabby's friend is now going to be adventuring with the Doctor and her too, so we've got 2 companions and doctors going around with, so that'll be cool. But yeah, just a fun issue overall. It's not necessary to pick this story arc up. I don't feel you should be able to jump on just fine after this. So if anyone's been kind of sitting on the fence about picking up this book, issue 8 looks like a perfect time to jump on, because they're going to be starting off onto something else, maybe involved with the Sukteth stuff, so we'll see where that goes. Moving right along, Wonder Woman, Battle of the Gods. I am so all over the place on this book. I don't know where I land on this issue. It's I think Meredith Finch has some really interesting ideas for Wonder Woman, but I think she has a really, really difficult time placing exactly what she wants to do with those ideas in the context of Azzarello's run. And also, I feel like she does not have a lot of experience writing dialogue. And I've said this a million times, and I promise I'll stop talking about Azzarello's Wonder Woman run at some point. But one thing he was brilliant at, no one can even deny how perfect he was at, was the dialogue, which is really funny because apparently Azzarello is like a really like sealed off dude that doesn't talk like at all. Like people do interviews with him, he's just like, no. And he won't elaborate on anything. But his dialogue was so damn sharp. It just hit over and over again. It was perfect dialogue. And this, some of it's just so ham-fisted. I feel like I'm reading a 90s comic, but not in a good way. It's just exposition. Here are my character doubts. And that bugs the crap out of me when I'm reading it. I don't need it to be perfectly subtle political intrigue stuff. I get that not everything can be that. But it feels like an early 2000s video game and not a good one. Just, Wonder Woman, go get this thing for me. Go battle this monster. Go get this thing. And it's interesting that I'm talking so much about the dialogue because actually there is some stuff in here that's like, it seems like Finch knows what she's trying to write for dialogue-wise, what she's trying to follow up with, but it's still just a little too ham-fisted. There's a confrontation with Ares, and once again, I'm so tired of seeing Ares be the bad guy. You really want to put a bad guy with Greek mythology in your stuff, use friggin' Poseidon. He hates everyone. Why does Poseidon always get to be the good guy? He was the villain of the Odyssey. The fuck? Anyway, there's something to rant about. Anyway, there's some interesting dialogue here. It's not anywhere near Azzarello level, but it's trying to attain that. In that Ares is only using military talk, or is using a lot of military talk. You are in a role to which you are unsuited. I am here to relieve you of your post, soldier. You can't live with it if I am. I was born to be the god of war, princess. I am war. War has a duty to this world. Just because you can't bring yourself to see the necessity of war in the world because you don't believe in war, that doesn't make you right. It's war that keeps the world in balance. War walked the world before you were born, and war will be here long after you are gone. And she says, I'm not going anywhere. And of course, it's all during a fight. What in the name is... Report, soldier, where are we? There's another... so he's using a lot of military language. You're not one of us. You'll never be a part of this unit. So there's just a lot of military language. Wait, what was the other one? Great Beard of Zeus. Truce. Truces are for the weak, and he throws Wonder Woman at this dragon thing. To be fair, though, kind of a cool scene where Wonder Woman flies away on a dragon. So I like some of the ideas here, and I like the attempt to make the dialogue fire a bit better. But it's still... There's other scenes in this where I'm just like, exposition. That is a wall of exposition. Look at what happened to Violet. I tried to save her and only ended up getting her killed. Or the Amazons. I thought I was saving them, but I ended up slaughtering a race of innocent men. What if I save him and he kills someone? Or what if I was given this gift to change fate? Maybe by saving this boy, I can change his destiny. What if I don't save him while I have the chance? How do I live with that, knowing it was in my power to change his fate? This is Donna Troy talking, which I thought she was dead. I am missing something somewhere, I feel. I could have sworn the last time we saw Donna Troy, she was straight up killed. Or turned back into clay or something. I don't remember her and Wonder Woman showing back up. Whatever. Is it just me or does Donna Troy look kind of Asian in this? Maybe it's just the kind of like muted coloring. Makes her look less, Caucasian and more yeller. I don't know, this frame, this panel too. I don't know, just... That's what I'm feeling. Yeah, I don't know. This is just and then there's this twist at the end, and it's just, I don't know how to feel about this book. It was doing so well, even when the Finches landed on it. See what I did there? Because their name is birds. Even when they landed on it, it wasn't as good as Azzarello's, but it was still really well thought out, really interesting. Wonder Woman's the god of war now. She can't just be that and be herself. There's going to be some kind of effect happening, right? And they deal with that. They deal with, oh my god, consequences. So the early run was really interesting ideas, and it was written well. Maybe time crunch is just getting to them too much now. I don't know. But it's not as good. It's really, really struggling. Something happened between their first story arc on this book and then as it went on, I don't know what, but not digging it. Sorry. It's like I say, I like some ideas. I like the idea that Ares comes back. And, he could die a noble death, but now that he's back, he needs to be war, because that's his purpose. That's what he is there to do, is to be war. But... And the idea that war does need to be a thing. It is a fundamental part of humanity for the time being. That it does serve a purpose. It's not an idea I agree with, but it's still a fascinating idea, especially for Diana to fight against. But that's not what's happening. It feels like a lot of setup right now is the best thing I can possibly say for it, but they've been setting this up since they finished their first story arc with Donna Troy. I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna give a clap just for audio syncing. Anyway. What do I say about this book? I'm so happy to have this book in my hands. Because it's the end of Scott Snyder's run on Batman. I am so happy about that. I've been considering doing what I'm thinking of about to do, but I just don't know if I can bring myself to do it as a comic book fan. And I've been so needlessly harsh on this book because, honestly, it's just a bad run on Batman. It's an awful run on Batman, but it is, end of the day, it's just a bad run on Batman. The character has survived more. I think what's made me so vehemently opposed to this run is that it's praised like it's genius because of everything that it takes. And that really, really pisses me off. I want to tear this book in half. I legitimately feel it is that bad. That my nerdiness as a comic book fan is the only thing stopping me from ripping this thing in half and throwing it in the garbage. Just so no one else accidentally has to read anything this awful. And I cannot stand Scott Snyder's writing on Batman. It is completely derivative of other works, obviously. It has no consequences. It has no character. All of these characters. Gordon, I thought, was written kind of well at the beginning of this arc. But by the end, it's just not Gordon anymore. No one is... Everyone's got a freaking degree in theoretical physics or experimental chemistry. Everyone explains their motivations for everything. Everyone explains the intricate science behind every single thing that goes on. And then once something happens, we just act like it didn't. It's so... Or we act like it was the biggest thing ever. Like Joker attacks Gotham in the Endgame story arc, and we act like it was the most devastating thing the Joker's ever done. We act like it was the most devastating thing that ever happened to Gotham. Like nothing this bad has ever happened in this city before. But it's just a part of it. And then just no consequences for anything. Only consequence in this entire run has been that Alfred lost his hand. Someone will give it back to him next issue because that's dumb anyway. There's just so much I don't enjoy about this. It's just not... It's not worth anyone's time. If you like Scott Snyder's Batman, do yourself a favor and go read the stuff he is ripping off. Because it is miles and way better. Even though it has problems that he fixes, it's still better. So yeah, there's nothing worth your time in Scott Snyder's Batman. And I've talked with Scott Snyder a little bit over Twitter. He's a perfectly nice dude, and if he happens to be listening or anyone, I don't want you to think that I don't like Scott Snyder, that I'm insulting him as a person. I'm sure he's actually a fairly talented writer. It's just not with not with this character. And I'm not gonna apologize for not liking his run on this character, for seeing gigantic problems with it. It's all there. I mean, it's really hard to deny that I'm right about this. You know, I did that Endgame rant a while ago, and by and large, I still stick by everything I said. I should have been more tactful about it, which is what I'm trying to do right now. But people leave comments on that like, oh, well, you can't really say that he's ripping them off because, I mean, if you really think about it, everything rips off of some story. There are only X number of stories ever told. Sure, that's fine. But every single character arc and story arc that was done with this character just right before Scott Snyder got on the book is been repeated in the same order but condensed. That's inexcusable. There's nothing that you can do for that. And this is the ending of Batman Inc. all over again. Only that book had consequences. Once again, you know, the industry can't leave a character dead, so Damian got to come back and all that stuff, but it still had consequences. None. Alfred lost his hand. And Bruce Wayne doesn't get to go be with this redhead chick that has so much character. No, it's not worth your time. Just go read something good. Moving along to Obi Wan Anakin. One of, like, the only thin comic books I have this week. Everything else is, like, huge. No, seriously, the only thin comic book. Everything else is, like, dense. It's like a proper book. Anyway, Obi Wan Anakin. So I decided to just add this to my list because I was enjoying the scenes with the Emperor, and these other scenes are still kind of just whatever. But no, like, I'm seriously tempted to only be reading the scenes with Palpatine and Anakin in this. Would that be a weird thing to just pick up a book only to read certain sections of it? Like, maybe I'll miss important thematic ties and stuff, but I don't care about the rest of this crap right now. I'm more interested in what's going on with Palpatine and Anakin. To be fair, there's some stuff with Obi Wan that we've explored before. He's talking with this guy about training Anakin, and he goes, "I have no issues with Anakin. He is asking questions as he should at his age. I am just uncertain that I have the answers he needs. If there is a problem, it is with me. The failure is mine." That's interesting. The idea that Obi-Wan doesn't feel like he is the proper teacher of Anakin. And, I just finished watching Star Wars Rebels, and there's a lot of similar doubt in Kanan in that show. So that's kind of a neat little idea to explore, because we've had a lot of things where the apprentice is learning from the master, and they feel unsure that they even should be a Jedi or deserve to be a Jedi, or if they can become, like, they're good enough to be one. We often have a lot of that, and in this, it's in those properties, it's interesting to see how does that reflect on the master, because, like, it's easy to see a Jedi Knight as a paragon, as is literally a shiny knight, but it's not always that simple. But what I liked about this is, so Palpatine takes Anakin to this like seedy little dive bar at one of the lowest levels on Coruscant. And it's like this, it's a slave den, it's a drug house, it's every single vice that you can imagine is in here, and so Palpatine's showing him everything, and he explains to him the story of this senator who's risen to power through bribery and extorting the system, and how he has a gambling problem with chance cubes. Nice little touch, by the way. He has a gambling problem with chance cubes, and Palpatine has this great line: "I wish the chance cubes would turn against him. He's an addict, a slave to his impulses. He would keep rolling in an effort to make up his losses. And if his losses were large enough, his greed would end him. He would seek ever larger bribes. It would leave a trail. My agents would finally be able to prove his corruption. We could remove him, return justice to the Senate. But alas, I fear that is just a fantasy. Come on now, show me something," says the senator. "I'm sorry, Senator, this just wasn't your role." "No!" And then Palpatine starts laughing, cackling over in the corner. I can just imagine that laugh that he does. I'm not sure how my Emperor laugh is. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of my Emperor laugh. Senator threatens them, they get out of the situation, and then they leave the bar. And Palpatine says, "May I ask you a question, Anakin?" And he goes, "Of course, Chancellor, anything." "Your Jedi abilities allow you to move objects through the Force, do they not?" "Yes, actually, I'm very good at it. Better than any of the other Padawans my age, and most of the older ones, too." "Could these abilities be used to move, perhaps, a chance cube?" And he looks at him, and Palpatine just puts his hand on his shoulder. I really, really like all of that. That's so good. It's so weird, because in episode 2 and 3, we just kind of get like, oh, well, your friendship with Palpatine. When do they interact in the first 2 episodes? That shit comes out of nowhere. So you need stuff like this, like Clone Wars, to actually show that kind of thing off. And when they do, it's often done just beautifully. Everything with the Emperor from the prequels is gold. Everything else is, it's a range of shit to, I don't know, nickel, to kind of continue sort of the rock precious metals metaphor. Sorry, that kind of got away from me. Moving on. Doctor Who, the 4th Doctor, #1. Yes, I picked this up. So my complaint about, Indians and headbands and feathers actually gets remedied in a really clever way, because the Doctor took Susan to go see Wild Bill Hickok's Wild West show. I really like that. That was a neat way to do it. But anyway, we seem to have a story kind of centered around Greek mythology, but in Victorian era London. And I'll give you a big hint of who the damn it, this stuff's hard to see, of who the Greek bad guy might be, or might be connected to in some way. She's wearing a veil, and there are all these like really scared statues behind her. I wonder why that might be. And then we get this big reveal with Sarah Jane, who has of course been kidnapped. I was really hoping for Romana. I like Romana too. Sarah Jane, she's fine. I know a lot of people love her to death. I was just hoping for Romana because we don't see the Doctor around other Time Lords very often, so that would have been fun. I was disappointed no backup comic. I was really hoping for a 4th Doctor backup comic. I know they didn't do it with the 8th either, but still, I was really hoping for that. There's not a lot to say about the story yet. I mean, one, it's Doctor Who, so I'm not even going to try to summarize the story other than there's a Greek myth-related bad guy. And 2, it's Doctor Who. How the... You know, it's the first issue of a Doctor Who comic. How much could I possibly tell you? The companion has been kidnapped. The Doctor has gotten a hold of temporary companions, at least it seems. And they are science-y minded as well. And now they're off to go try and rescue Sarah Jane. There are Cyclopses wearing top hats and suits. If that's your thing, here you go. Yeah. That's all I got for you. It's fun so far. I like the 4th Doctor quite a bit. Actually, believe it or not, my favorite Doctor from the classic era is the 1st. I know that's kind of weird, but I really like the 1st Doctor. Not counting the 8th Doctor just because he only has the movie, and I don't know. I kind of consider Paul McGann not to be New Who and not to be Classic Who, but to be Mid Who. He's not a New Who Doctor. He's not a Classic Who Doctor. He's in his own era of Doctor Who, because it's like equidistant from years of cancellation. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this so far, but there's not a lot to say about it yet. Surprisingly little 4th Doctor. I could probably actually count you the number 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting, I know. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19. Sorry, just one more second. 25, 26, 27, 28. He's in 28 panels, which I know that sounds like a lot, but I don't know. It's just surprisingly little for a Doctor Who comic. I do like how this just throws you right in with the Doctor and Sarah Jane. I like that it doesn't feel any need whatsoever to try to reintroduce these characters. I mean, you have the catch-up page, of course, but that's in all the books, so it doesn't really count. It doesn't, they're just out having an adventure. I like that. It's probably smart to start with the 4th Doctor as you go back to do the classics. I was surprised they did 8th Doctor first, to be honest with you. But hey, cool stuff. Do recommend picking it up if you get the chance. Alright. I will be back in a moment. Sorry about that. I needed soda-y goodness. Jack Kirby's Black Panther, Volume 2. So once again, Jack Kirby. Idea Factory is. I was having a conversation with Comics Kid 2099, and yeah, I love that phrase. Jack Kirby is an idea factory. Unfortunately, and I don't mean this to be insulting or anything like that. Unfortunately, this man just does not know how to write dialogue, or even how to plot. There are just so many things that like come out of nowhere and are at best morally questionable. Like, okay, Black Panther trying to fly home to Wakanda sees two guys in a boat that is, capsized. So he quickly swoops down and saves them and offers to drop them off on the coast, but they're mobsters, and they try to hijack him. So he, in the attempt to, ensure his safety, he ends up crashing the helicopter. He pulls one of them out, but can't get back in time to save the other. So he drags the surviving one across the desert, almost dies of thirst, but stumbles onto a movie set. A very, very elaborate movie set. And they save his life and give him water and safety and all that stuff. And then he's like, no, I must go. I must get back home. And they're like, well, you showed up with a mobster, so we called the police, and they're gonna ask you some questions. And he just fucking blows up their movie set. Just like, he just gets a hold of a control board, launches some missiles and turns on all their machines and shit, and just seriously blows their fucking movie set up. Then steals a Jeep and takes the fuck off. Then, as he's driving the Jeep down the road, he gets shot at by a plane, so he pulls over and flags him down. And then just knocks out the pilots and steals the plane and starts heading back to Wakanda. And nothing comes of this. He just, like, endangers innocent people who saved his life, and then steals their shit, and then knocks out soldiers who, hey, we got this felon guy that was in league with a mobster, and he just took off in this stolen Jeep, so he just knocks them the fuck out. It's kind of messed up. Just a little bit. Yeah, it's a little odd. Anyway, that was very strange. But most of this revolves around the guy that tried to form a coup of Wakanda while T'Challa was gone, but touched vibranium and got turned into a freakish monster. Touched raw vibranium, because that's the distinction. I should have adjusted this while I was getting my soda, but let's try that. Oh, that's a better shot. Anyway, I know you probably don't care, but I do. I criticize Steve for having bad frames in his captain's logs. I should probably not do the same thing. Just a quick side note before I get into more of the plot. Jack Kirby apparently thinks all old men look alike, and he just colors them differently, because that looks exactly like Highfather. I found that amusing. Anyway, like, there's stuff I really like about this, and as I read more of it, I got more accustomed to it, but it's still really wonky. When was this coming out? This had to be 70s, right? Black Panther by Jack Kirby Volume 2 contains material originally published from Black Panther 8 to 13. I don't know. When was Black Panther? It had to be the 70s. So this, for the 70s, this writing's really, really off. I've got respect for Jack Kirby, but he is just not a great writer. He needs I have no problem with Jack Kirby script or helping to plot. Like the general ideas, the beats of how the story should work are fine. It's the scripting. He needs someone else to script, or needed someone else to script. Because some of this just comes out of nowhere. Okay. So while he's gone, his family, the rest of the royal family, has to step in and be the Black Panther as a team. And that's really fascinating. They actually work really, really well together. And they're chasing down the vibranium monster to go inject him with basically a cure before he can reach the mound. And T'Challa just, suddenly just got back to Wakanda just in time, even though they don't really need him right now. But he gets back to Wakanda just in time, and then he just takes it from him and says, "Fuck you, I got this." And I'm like, dude, it's... Thematically, it's a problem because we just proved with the Panther team that Wakanda doesn't need T'Challa. But also, it's just kind of awkward that they don't really fulfill much of a function in the story after that. They're just... I mean, it's not a lot of story after that. He goes to the mound, fights the monster, and gets kind of like trapped inside of it with him. But that's really odd. And then it goes to another story where T'Challa somehow got psychic powers from being in the collapse vibranium mine. 70s. This doesn't fit with that era very well. It's not too far off, but it still doesn't quite fit in. Anyway. Excuse me. So there's this guy, and he's, basically taking people and absorbing their life energy for himself. And T'Challa comes across him using his psychic powers, and, one of his family members has been kidnapped, and he has to go after him, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. This is just... there's interesting stuff, but he had to just add a superpower. And then they just had another writer and artist come on for the last issue. So I don't even feel like it's appropriate to talk about it at that point. I don't know, man. It works for me, and other times it doesn't. The art is undeniably gorgeous. But when you just talk about the plot, there's a lot of really weird shit going on that has no explanation. And, I read Jack Kirby's Fourth World Omnibus Volume 1, and it has the exact same problem. Where the plot worked better in that, but the scripting, the dialogue was still way all over the place. And got to be really, really difficult to get through. And that's what's going on with this. I have a lot of respect for Jack Kirby, but he still was not a writer. He was brilliant at coming up with concepts. He was literally an idea factory. But when you hear people say, Stan Lee didn't create this character, Jack Kirby did. Sure. But Stan Lee at least knew how to write him. Jack Kirby would create a concept for a character. I feel like this dude, I don't know Jack Kirby at all. I never met him in person or anything like that. But I feel like this guy fired at a mile a minute. I feel like if you were in a room with him, he would be, 10 steps ahead of you in the conversation. You know, you would say one thing and like you wouldn't be able to finish any topic of conversation with Jack Kirby. I feel like if you were talking to him, he would go from one thing to the next at a bolt of lightning. You know, you'd be talking about something and he would jump in and say, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of this." And you'd be like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And then you'd gotta get off on something else, because I feel like that's symptomatic of his writing. He just doesn't know how to take his time with stuff. He doesn't know how to focus on things and how to make stuff work in a timely manner, in a way that functions properly, in a way that has any kind of structure. And then is like, it'd be one thing if the plot itself didn't have these massive holes in it. Because then I could just say, oh well, he's a good writer he's a good writer as far as plots go and ideas and character creation. He's just not good at scripting. That'd be a one thing. But no, he's just not a good writer. He's a great idea man. George Lucas and Jack Kirby should have hung out. And I hope that isn't insulting. George Lucas gave us Star Wars, and he gets way more credit than he deserves, since a lot of it wasn't him but other people's input on the projects. But George Lucas gave us Star Wars. It was still his baby. And that's, you know, all the problems that come after that are because he got too close to it and no one else got to touch it. And I feel like that's what's going on with Jack Kirby, is when he's too close to something and no one else is allowed in on it, it's not the best. It gets really difficult to follow, and they're just gigantic leaps. Which I know, I understand that's part of comics at the time, but, you know, it's worse here, is I guess my point. Let's try to end on a positive, though, and get back to the art. Because, again, just, like, everything about it. Anyone else? That would have just been some lines on a shield. There would have been vertical or horizontal lines, or maybe some kind of, you know, very simplistic design. That's a fucking tattoo. You know, I could see someone getting that as a tattoo. Despite complaining about his look for old men, it's alright. I still think he has problems with people. I don't think he did the colorization, but someone did some weird stuff to... Where's my frame? T'Challa's face looks really weird in that. I can hear my neighbors talking. I wonder if you can. T'Challa's face looks really, really weird. Like, he's supposed to be sunburnt and covered in sand, but that doesn't look like what that's supposed to be. Yeah, I don't know. There's great art, but still, that even has its problems, like anything from the time. So, I don't know. I'm sorry, Jack Kirby. The good news is you're dead, so this doesn't hurt you at all. Okay. That was a fairly positive week. Doctor Who is just okay. Wonder Woman, I don't know how to feel about it anymore. Batman, thank God it's over. Obi Wan and Anakin had one really, really awesome ass scene. Doctor Who number 4, it's beginning. Doctor Who Fourth Doctor number 4, it's starting up, and then Jack Kirby, Black Panther. I don't know. So it's kind of a mixed bag this week. If you, yes, you, the viewer, has anything that you would like for me to be talking about on comic reviews, please, please, please leave that in the comments below, and I will do my best to pick that up. If it's a single issue ongoing series, I promise to pick up at least one issue, and let you know my thoughts on it. If I like it enough, I will add it to my pull list and talk about it every week until it gets awful and unbearable. Kidding. And if it's a graphic novel or trade, please put that down below as well, and I will do my best to keep an eye out for it and pick it up. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Bye.